When my parents said, "You don't live here anymore," I thought they were just angry. I didn't know they were taking my daughter too. That day, they locked me out, not just of their house, but of my own child's life. The words didn't make sense. They were just sounds, like a hammer hitting wood, but meaning nothing. "We have all decided you don't live here anymore," my mom said. I stood on the porch, my key still hovering near the lock. The afternoon sun was warm on my back, but a coldness was spreading from my chest, freezing me from the inside out. I'd just taken my daughter, Lily, to the park. She was 5. Her little hand had been in mine moments ago, sticky from a melted ice cream. What? The word was a dry leaf, crumbling in my throat. My mom stood in the doorway, a fortress in a floral print dress. She didn't move to let me in. Behind her, the familiar hallway was dark, the living room a cave of shadows. I could see my father's silhouette in his armchair, not moving, not looking at me. "You heard me, Sarah." Her voice was flat, a river stone worn smooth of all emotion. "It's for the best, for everyone." "For everyone?" I echoed, a hysterical laugh bubbling up and dying before it reached my lips. "Mom, what are you talking about? Where's Lily?" A tiny figure darted out from behind my mom's legs. Lily, my Lily, with her wide, cornflower blue eyes and a tangle of blonde curls. "Mommy, Grandma said we're going on an adventure," she chirped, completely unaware of the tectonic plates shifting beneath her world. My breath hitched. "An adventure? Mom, what is this?" My mother's eyes, the same shade of blue as mine, but now as cold as a winter lake, finally met mine. "Leaving my daughter alone outside with a stranger while you went to get settled," she said the word settled like it was a curse. "That was the final straw, Sarah. We can't trust you. We can't have that around Lily." The world tilted. The stranger was Mr. Henderson, our 80-year-old neighbor who grew prize-winning roses and gave Lily butterscotch candies. I'd run back into our old apartment to grab the last box, a 60-second trip. Lily had been on his porch, helping him water the petunias. It wasn't being alone. It wasn't neglect. "That was 2 months ago, Mom. We were moving. Mr. Henderson was right there." A mother's job is to be vigilant, always. Her gaze was unwavering. "It's a pattern, Sarah. The lost job, the eviction, the men. You're unstable. You make poor choices. We can't let Lily pay the price anymore." Each word was a nail. The lost job, a mass layoff at the call center. The eviction, when I couldn't find a new job fast enough. The men, a few bad dates, one disastrous 6-month relationship with a guy who liked video games more than he liked responsibility. I had stumbled, yes, I had fallen, but I was always, always trying to get back up, for Lily. "So this is it?" My voice trembled. "You're kicking us out? Your daughter and your granddaughter?" "We're giving Lily stability," my father's voice rumbled from the darkness of the living room. He still didn't come to the door. "She stays with us. You need to figure your life out." The ground fell away. This wasn't just banishment. It was a kidnapping dressed in grandparent clothes. "No." The word was a whisper, then a scream. "No! You can't take her from me!" I tried to push past my mother, but she was immovable. She was always so strong. Now it was a prison wall. "Lily, go to your room, sweetheart," my mom said, her voice sweet for my daughter, poison for me. "But I want Mommy," Lily cried, confusion dawning on her small face. "Now, Lily." My father's command was final. My little girl looked at me, her lip trembling, then turned and scampered down the dark hall. The sight of her back, walking away from me, broke something fundamental inside my soul. My mom reached behind the door and produced my old, worn duffel bag. It was bulging. "We packed a few of your things. There's some money in the envelope. It's more than you deserve." She pushed the bag into my arms. The weight of it almost sent me to my knees. "Mom, please," I begged, tears finally streaming down my face, hot and shameful. "Don't do this. I'm her mother. And we are her grandparents, and we are doing what's best for her. When you can prove you're stable, when you have a good job and a proper home, then we can talk about visitation." Visitation. The word was a slap. She started to close the door. My home, the house I grew up in, the place that was supposed to be my refuge. "I love you, Sarah," she said, and the most horrifying part was that she sounded like she meant it. "This is the toughest love you'll ever know." The door clicked shut. The lock turned with a sound of terrible, absolute finality. I stood there on the porch for what felt like a lifetime. The sun was still shining. A dog barked down the street. The world was going on as if mine hadn't just ended. I sank to my knees, the rough wood of the porch scraping through my jeans. I pressed my forehead against the cool, painted wood of the door and sobbed. Great, heaving sobs that felt like they were tearing my ribs apart. My daughter was on the other side of that door. My parents had her, and I was alone on the outside with a duffel bag and a shattered heart. I don't know how long I knelt there. It could have been minutes, it could have been an hour. The sun began to dip below the rooftops, painting the sky in bruised shades of purple and orange. A chill crept into the air, seeping through my thin jacket. A car pulled into the driveway next door. Mr. Henderson got out, holding a bag of groceries. He saw me, hunched and broken on the porch, and his kindly face crumpled with concern. "Sarah, goodness, child, are you all right?" I couldn't speak. I just shook my head, my body racked with silent, dry heaves. He hurried over, his old knees cracking as he bent down. "What's happened? Where's little Lily?" They took her," I managed to choke out. "They won't let me in." Understanding and a deep, sad anger dawned in his eyes. He'd heard the fights over the last few weeks since we'd moved back in, my mother's constant criticism, my father's silent disapproval. He'd seen me trying. "Come on now," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "You can't stay here. Come next door. Let's get you a cup of tea." He helped me to my feet. My legs were numb. I clung to him, an old man I barely knew, my only anchor in a world that had suddenly become a raging sea. I looked back at the house one more time. Lily's window was dark. Was she crying? Was she scared? Did she think I had abandoned her? The thought was a physical pain, a knife twisting in my gut. Mr. Henderson's house smelled of lemon polish and old books. It was the opposite of my parents' sterile, perfect home. It was lived in, comfortable. He sat me down at his kitchen table, a chipped Formica thing from the 70s, and put the kettle on. "Now," he said, sitting across from me, "start from the beginning." The story tumbled out in broken pieces. The lost job, the eviction, the shame of having to move back in with my parents at 32. Their constant reminders of my failures. The way they'd slowly started taking over Lily's care, packing her lunch, reading her bedtime stories, making her doctor's appointments, until I felt like a ghost in my own daughter's life. And the final, twisted justification, the 60 seconds I'd left her with him. "They used me," Mr. Henderson said, his voice heavy with regret.
"I'm so sorry, Sarah. If I had known, it's not your fault," I whispered, staring into the steaming mug of tea he placed in front of me. "They were looking for a reason, any reason. What will you do?" I looked at the duffel bag on the floor. I unzipped it. Inside were a jumble of my clothes, haphazardly thrown in, my toiletries, and a plain white envelope. I opened it. $500 in crisp 20s, a king's ransom and a pittance all at once. It was guilt money, severance pay for motherhood. "I don't know," I admitted, the truth of my helplessness a bitter taste in my mouth. "I have no job, no home. My car is in their driveway. All my important documents are in that house. My phone is probably ringing in there right now." I had a terrifying thought. My bank account. It's a joint account from when I was a teenager. My mom's name is still on it. Mr. Henderson's face was grim. They've planned this, cut you off at the knees. He was right. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was a calculated coup. I need a lawyer, I said, the words feeling foreign and expensive on my tongue. But I can't afford one. And to get a job, I need an address, a phone. To get an address, I need money. The cycle of impossibility closed around me like a trap. You can stay here tonight, Mr. Henderson said. The spare room is made up. It's not much, but it's safe and warm. I wanted to refuse, to be proud, but I had no pride left, only a desperate, clawing need to see my daughter. Thank you, I breathed, the words thick with tears. Just for tonight. I'll figure something out tomorrow. That night, in a strange bed under a quilt that smelled of mothballs, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the old house settle. Every sound was my parents' car, bringing Lily back. Every whisper of the wind was her crying for me. The image of her walking down that dark hallway away from me played on a loop behind my eyes. I was her mother. It was the one title I had ever been proud of, the one thing I knew, deep in my bones, I was good at. I might have failed at everything else, but I loved my daughter with a ferocity that scared me sometimes. And now, that had been taken from me, branded as inadequate. The darkness of that room held me, and for the first time, a new emotion began to mix with the grief and the terror. It was a small, hard seed of anger. They thought I was unstable? They thought I made poor choices? Fine. I would show them what a mother fighting for her child was capable of. The next week was a blur of humiliating steps. Mr. Henderson, a saint in suspenders, became my silent partner. He drove me to the public library where I used their computers to search for jobs and print resumes. I opened a new bank account with the $500, my hands shaking as I filled out the forms. It felt like an act of rebellion. I found a cheap pay-as-you-go phone at a discount store. The first number I saved was Mr. Henderson's. The second was a legal aid office I'd found online. The woman at legal aid was kind but overworked. She listened to my story, her face growing increasingly somber. Grandparents' rights cases are complex, she said, tapping a pen on her cluttered desk. If they've been providing significant financial support and have a strong relationship with the child, and if they can demonstrate you're an unfit parent, the court might side with them, at least temporarily. Unfit. The word was a punch. Because I lost my job? Because I left her with a trusted neighbor for 1 minute? It's about a pattern of instability in the court's eyes, she explained gently. Do you have a stable home now? A job? I looked down at my worn-out jeans. No. My advice is to get those things fast. The longer Lily stays with them, the harder it will be to get full custody back. I can give you the forms to file for an emergency hearing, but without a lawyer and without evidence of stability, it's a huge risk. If you lose, it sets a terrible precedent. Hope, which had been a tiny, flickering flame, guttered and nearly died. I needed a job. A miracle.
I spent my days walking all over town, filling out applications at every diner, retail store, and office I could find. I was overqualified for some, underqualified for others. The $500 was dwindling, paying for bus fares and the cheapest possible food. I called my parents' house every day. Sometimes my father answered and hung up the second he heard my voice. Sometimes it went to voicemail. I left messages for Lily, my voice cracking. Hi, baby. It's Mommy. I love you so much. I'm working very hard to come get you. Be a good girl for Grandma and Grandpa. I love you. One afternoon, a week into my eviction, I hit rock bottom. It was raining, a cold, relentless drizzle that soaked through my jacket. I'd just been turned down from a waitressing job because I didn't have reliable transportation. I was standing under the awning of a laundromat, watching the cars hiss by on the wet street, feeling the weight of my hopelessness. I had $67 left to my name. I fumbled my new phone out of my pocket, my fingers numb with cold. I scrolled to my mom's number. Pride was a luxury I could no longer afford. She picked up on the second ring. "Sarah." "Mom, please," I begged, the rain masking my tears. "Let me just talk to her. Let me hear her voice." "She's settling in, Sarah. It's better this way. She asked for you the first few nights, but she's fine now." She's fine now. The words were designed to inflict maximum pain. They were erasing me. "She's my daughter," I cried, my voice rising. "You can't just erase me." "We're not erasing you. We're protecting her. When you have something to offer, we'll talk." Her voice was calm, infuriatingly rational. "Do you have a job yet? A place to live?" I was silent, the truth a suffocating blanket. "I thought not." She sighed, a sound of profound disappointment. "We're taking her to the zoo this weekend. She's very excited." She hung up. I slid down the laundromat wall, onto the wet, gritty pavement, and buried my face in my hands. The sobs came then, ugly and raw. This was it. I was beaten. They had all the power, all the resources. They had my child. Rough day? I looked up, wiping my nose on my soggy sleeve. A woman was standing in the doorway of the laundromat, holding a basket of folded clothes. She was probably in her 40s, with kind eyes and a streak of purple in her dark hair. I just nodded, too exhausted to speak. "Come on," she said, nodding toward the inside. "It's warm in here. I've got a spare coffee." Her name was Maria. She owned the laundromat. She listened to my story, the abridged version, the "my parents have my daughter and I have nothing" version, without judgment. She just listened, her hands busy folding a small mountain of towels. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I need a part-time helper, mornings, sorting laundry, wiping down machines, that kind of thing. It's not glamorous, and the pay isn't great, but it's cash. And you can use the office in the back to make your phone calls. It's quiet." I stared at her, sure I had misheard. Why would you do that for me?" She shrugged. "Because the world is full of people who like to kick you when you're down."
Sometimes you gotta be the one who offers a hand instead. My mom was a lot like yours. I get it. It wasn't a miracle job. It was minimum wage, back-breaking work. But it was a start. It was a thread of solid ground in the quicksand. "Yes," I said, my voice trembling with a new, fragile hope. "Yes, please. I can start right now." Maria smiled. "Good. First, you can help me fold this mountain. Consider it your audition." As I folded a warm, clean towel, the simple, repetitive motion felt like a prayer. It was the first good thing that had happened since the door closed. It was a foothold, and I would cling to it with everything I had. The next 2 months were a strange dual existence. My days had a new, grueling rhythm. I woke up in Mr. Henderson's spare room at 5 a.m., my body aching with a fatigue that was more emotional than physical. I'd tiptoe out, leaving a thank you note and sometimes a muffin I'd bought with my meager earnings, and walk to the laundromat in the pre-dawn chill. The work was hard. My hands grew raw from the detergent, my back ached from lifting heavy, wet loads, and I smelled perpetually of bleach and fabric softener. But it was honest, and Maria, my unlikely angel, was true to her word. She paid me in cash every Friday, and she let me use the small, cluttered office in the back. That office became my war room. During my breaks, I'd sit at the old desk, surrounded by the hum of dryers, and make calls. I found a room for rent in a shared house, a far cry from having my own place with Lily, but it was clean, and the elderly lady who owned it didn't ask too many questions. I gave Maria's address as my own for job applications. With a physical address and a steady, small income, I started applying for better jobs. I used the library computer to take an online certification course for data entry, something I could do at night. It was boring, but it was a skill. Every Saturday, without fail, I'd go to the park where I'd taken Lily that last day. It was close to my parents' house. I'd watch the kids on the swings, my heart a constant dull ache. And then, one Saturday, I saw them.
My mother was pushing Lily on a swing. My daughter was laughing, her head thrown back, her curls flying. She was wearing a new dress, bright yellow. She looked happy, healthy. The sight was a beautiful, brutal torture. I stood up, my legs shaking. I had to see her. I had to talk to her. I walked across the grass, my pulse hammering in my ears. My mother saw me first. Her smile vanished, replaced by a tight, wearing mask. She stopped the swing. "Lily, look who's here," she said, her voice carefully neutral. Lily turned. Her eyes, my eyes, met mine. For a heart-stopping second, there was nothing. No recognition, no joy, just curiosity. Then a slow dawning. "Mommy?" The word was a question. A question. It shattered what was left of my heart. "Hi, baby," I whispered, kneeling on the grass, not caring that it was damp. "I've missed you so much." I held out my arms. Lily looked from me to my mother, uncertainty on her face. "Go on, sweetie," my mom said, her tone implying it was a minor, slightly inconvenient interaction. Lily slid off the swing and took a few hesitant steps toward me. Then she ran, the last few, crashing into my arms. I held her, burying my face in her hair, breathing in her unique little girl scent of shampoo and grass. I was crying, and I could feel her small shoulders shaking too. "I thought you went away," she whispered into my neck. "Never, baby, never. Mommy would never leave you. I'm working so hard to come back for you." "She's been just fine, Sarah," my mother said, her voice cutting through our moment. "Haven't you, Lily? We've been having lots of fun." Lily pulled back and nodded, a confused look on her face. "Grandma lets me have ice cream before dinner sometimes." It was a tiny thing, a bribe, but it was a weapon. I saw the strategy clearly. They were making my absence fun. They were replacing my love with permissiveness. "I love you, Lily," I said, holding her small face in my hands. "More than anything in the whole world. You remember that, okay? No matter what anyone says, I am your mommy and I am coming for you." "Okay, Mommy," she said, her eyes wide and serious. "That's enough, Sarah," my mother said, her voice hardening. "You'll upset her. Come on, Lily, time to go home." "No, 5 more minutes," Lily pleaded, clinging to me. My mother's jaw tightened. "Now, Lily," the old command. My daughter's arms tightened around my neck for a second, then she let go. The resignation in her small body was the most heartbreaking thing I had ever felt. She was learning the new rules of her world. Grandma was in charge. "Bye, Mommy," she said softly, and walked back to my mother's waiting hand. I stayed on my knees in the grass, watching them walk away. My mother's back straight and triumphant, my daughter's small head turning back to look at me one last time. That night, in my tiny rented room, I didn't cry. I stared at the ceiling, Lily's hesitant, "Mommy," echoing in my mind. The seed of anger that had been planted the night I was exiled had grown. It was now a strong, stubborn tree, its roots wrapped around my soul. They were trying to make her forget me. They were trying to make her see them as her primary family. I had the pay stubs from the laundromat. I had the certificate for the data entry course. I had a roof over my head. It wasn't much, but it was stability. It was a foundation. It was time to fight back. I walked into the legal aid office with a binder. Maria had helped me put it together. It had tabs: employment, housing, financials, character references. The same overworked woman whose name I now knew was Annette looked up in surprise as I placed it on her desk. "I've been busy," I said, my voice quieter, steadier than it had been 2 months ago. She opened the binder. She saw the cash pay stubs from the laundromat, meticulously recorded. She saw the receipt for my rent payments. She saw the data entry certification. She saw a printed bank statement showing my meager but growing savings. And she saw the character references, one from Mr. Henderson and one from Maria, both stating I was a hard-working, devoted mother. Annette looked at me, a new respect in her eyes. "This is impressive, Sarah. This is exactly what the court needs to see. I want to file for custody, full custody, and I want to file a report for wrongful retention. It's a good start, she cautioned, but they will fight back hard. They'll hire a good lawyer. They'll bring up your past struggles. Let them, I said, the image of Lily's confused face burning in my mind. My past is past. I am her present. I am her future. With Annette's help, we filed the paperwork. The court date was set for 3 weeks away. They were the longest 3 weeks of my life. I worked, I saved, I prepared. I bought a new professional-looking shirt from a thrift store for the hearing. I practiced what I would say in the mirror. The night before the hearing, I went to the park again. I sat on our bench and I promised the ghost of my daughter that I would not fail her. The courthouse was a monument of intimidating stone and echoing hallways. My parents were already there, sitting with a severe-looking man in an expensive suit, their lawyer. My father refused to look at me. My mother's gaze was cold and confident. I sat next to Annette, in her slightly rumpled suit, feeling like a peasant going to battle against an army. The judge was a weary-looking woman with sharp eyes. The hearing began. My parents' lawyer painted a picture of a reckless, unstable daughter who had bounced from failure to failure. He talked about the eviction, the lost job, the questionable judgment of leaving a child with a neighbor. He made my life sound like a never-ending crisis. Then it was our turn. Annette stood. She was calm and methodical. She presented my binder of evidence. She called Mr. Henderson, who testified about my character and the true nature of the neglect incident. She called Maria, who spoke of my work ethic and dedication. Then Annette called me to the stand. My hands were shaking as I took the oath. I looked at my parents. For a split second, I saw my mother's mask slip. I saw a flicker of something. Fear? Doubt? Miss Jones, Annette began, your parents claim you are an unfit mother. Can you tell the court why you disagree? I took a deep breath. I didn't look at the judge. I looked at my parents. I have made mistakes, I said, my voice clear and strong in the quiet room. I lost my job. I lost my apartment. I was not perfect, but I have never, for one single second, stopped fighting for my daughter. Moving back home was not me giving up. It was me trying to provide Lily with a roof over her head while I got back on my feet. I turned to the judge. Your Honor, what my parents did was not an act of love. It was an act of control. They saw me at my most vulnerable, and instead of offering a hand, they used my moment of need as an excuse to take my child. They didn't try to help me become a better parent. They decided to replace me. My mother gasped softly. My father's face was like stone. I have a job, I have a home, I have a plan. But more than any of that, I have a love for my daughter that is unconditional. It's a love that survives evictions and lost jobs. It's a love that got me out of bed every morning for the last 3 months to sort other people's dirty laundry, just so I could stand here today and prove that I deserve to be her mother. I looked directly at my parents. Leaving my daughter alone outside was their excuse. But the truth is, they left me alone outside, on the porch, in the cold. And a mother who would do that to her own child, what does that say about their capacity for love? The courtroom was silent. The judge looked from me to my parents, her expression unreadable. After the final arguments, she didn't take long to decide. The court finds, she began, her voice firm, that while Sarah Jones has faced significant challenges, she has demonstrated remarkable resilience and a clear commitment to providing a stable home for her daughter, Lily Jones. The actions of the grandparents, while perhaps well-intentioned initially, crossed a line into wrongful retention. The court orders the immediate return of Lily Jones to the custody of her mother. The world exploded in a roar of static in my ears. I won. I actually won. My mother let out a choked cry. My father finally looked at me, his face a mixture of shock and what might have been shame. Annette squeezed my arm, a huge smile on her face. "You did it, Sarah." The bailiff was sent to bring Lily from the children's waiting room. When the door opened, she stood there, holding a coloring book, looking small and scared. I knelt down, just like I had in the park. "Lily?" This time, there was no hesitation. Her face lit up. "Mommy!" She ran into my arms, a full-speed, certain, and sure run. I held her, sobbing, kissing her hair, her face, her hands. "We're going home, baby. Our home." As I stood up, holding my daughter tightly in my arms, I walked past my parents. My mother was crying silent tears. My father looked old and defeated. I stopped. The anger was gone, replaced by a vast, weary sadness. "I love you," I said to them, and I meant it. They were my parents. They had broken me, but in breaking me, they had forced me to find a strength I never knew I had. But we won't be coming back. You can see Lily, when I say so, under my supervision. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out of the courtroom into the bright, uncertain future, holding the only thing that had ever truly mattered. The porch was behind me. The door was open. This time, the door wasn't shutting me out. It was opening to everything ahead. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts about my story in the comment section.